Well, we're just days away from California's special election, and this morning we're continuing our deep dive into the only statewide initiative on the ballot, Proposition 50. Now, Prop 50 would temporarily suspend the duties of the Independent Redistricting Commission and place the power back into the hands of the legislature. If approved, that would only last until the next census count in 2030. Then the Independent Commission will continue its duty. Under the current map, Democrats hold 43 of the state's 52 U.S. House seats. Democrats are hoping to pick up 5 seats in response to what they call election rigging in other states. So today we take a look at what's at stake in the national effort to redistrict. Republicans won House majority in 2024 by a margin of only 3 seats. You see the number here of the U.S. House Representatives, 219 for Republicans, 213 for Democrats, with 3 vacancies, including the election from Election Grijalva. So to maintain control of the House, President Trump has urged states to redraw congressional lines mid-cycle. This started with Texas, where the governor signed off on new Republican-backed maps aimed at flipping 5 Democratic-held seats. Texas lawmakers even used a special legislative session and a procedural tactics to fast-track those changes. Republicans already control 25 of Texas's 38 seats. And now Texas voters, they don't register by party, but voting data reveals that more than 46% of Texans voted Democratic in recent elections compared to 37% Republican. Now, Missouri's governor signed a new map into law in September that dismantles a Democratic-held seat in Kansas City. That gives Republicans in the advantage of the state's 8 seats, 7 of those 8. 33% of voters here are Democrat, nearly 47% are Republican. Now, adding a new state here, Ohio, it's required to pass the new map for next year. That's because the previous one was redrawn in 2021 with no Democratic votes. Republicans control 10 of the state's 15 seats and are targeting 2 more. The registration is split here with Democrats 31%, Republicans at 30%, a very tight race there. North Carolina's GOP majority approved a new map this month designed to flip 1 seat. That would give Republicans control of 11 of the state's 14 seats. Voter registration also split here at 30% for each party. Indiana, Florida, and Kansas are all trying to redraw maps, which can net the GOP up to 6 seats. Now, on the Democratic side, adding another state, starting with Virginia there, it's following California's lead, who we just showed in the beginning of this map. Democrats there launched a special legislative session this week to consider taking steps to redistrict. Ultimately, the plan would have to be put before voters in order to make it happen. Democrats here hold 6 of the state's 11 seats. Analysts predict that they could flip as many as 3 seats with a revised map. Voter registration here is 51% Democrat, 30% Republican. Democrats in Maryland and Utah are aiming to flip at least 1 seat in each state. 2 Democrat strongholds, Illinois and New York, they're unlikely to redistrict ahead of next year's midterms. Now, at the end of the day, these maps aren't just lines on paper. They're blueprints for political power here in the country. Every time a district shifts, it could change the balance of Congress. Combine that with control of the White House, and the consequences, they grow even larger. When one party holds the presidency and both chambers of Congress, it allows that party to advance its agenda with fewer obstacles. And we have seen this before. Starting in 2017, Republicans used unified control to pass sweeping tax cuts. In 2021, Democrats pushed through the American Rescue Plan in key climate provisions. And the president's Big Beautiful Bill was just passed this year. The outcome of these maps will help determine which priorities make it to the president's desk and which don't. So whether the power tilts red or blue, one thing is clear. The fight over these maps is really a fight over the direction of the country. And for voters, that means the 2026 election may be shaped long before anybody even casts a ballot. Speaking of the ballots, tens of thousands here in the central San Joaquin Valley have already turned theirs in. These are the latest figures from the Secretary of State's office. Starting in Fresno County, more than 106,000 ballots have been cast, which is about 20% of those sent out. More than 14,000 ballots have been cast in Kings County, nearly a quarter submitted. In Madera County, about a quarter of ballots have been cast. That's more than 20,000. Merced County voters have returned about 19% of their ballots at more than 25,000 votes cast. Mariposa County voters have turned in more than 4,200 ballots. That's about 34%. And in Tulare County, more than 43,000 ballots are in, which is about 20%. Now, Attorney General Rob Bonta and Secretary of State Shirley Weber are encouraging people to drop off their ballots early, well before November 4th. They warned of delays with the Postal Service that will affect every voter here in the central San Joaquin Valley because we live more than 50 miles away from the 6 regional mail processing facilities. If you are mailing in your ballot, you'll need to make sure to do it today, tomorrow, or even Monday, not on Election Day. Well, that's because it will be postmarked the next day. You can also deliver your ballot to a voting center or drop box on or before Election Day, or go to the post office and ensure it's postmarked November 4th or before. And if you miss the deadline to register to vote in the special election, you can still vote. You can go to your elections office, vote center, or polling place in the county where you live. You can register right then and there and receive a ballot. Those ballots will be counted once the voter registration verification process is finished, all the way up to Election Day again, November 4th.
This is what the map looks like right now. California's current U.S. House district lines are drawn every 10 years by the Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. This is what it looks like right now. We've got the 13th district, the 5th district, 21st, 22nd, and 20. A yes vote on Prop 50 would shift the authority temporarily to the legislature starting in 2026 until using new maps until after the 2030 census. Again, that is what it looks like if it winds up passing. A no vote means the commission's maps stay unchanged for this decade. Backers say this is an emergency response to partisan map drawing in states like Texas, where congressional lines were redrawn mid-cycle. Opponents say Prop 50 hands power back to lawmakers and rolls back California's map drawing reforms. Now let's go back to that commission we talked about moments ago. Back in 2001, California lawmakers from both parties quietly struck a deal. You don't challenge my district, I won't challenge yours. The result? Practically every incumbent kept their seat for the next decade. Public trust in the process collapsed. So voters passed Proposition 11 in 2008, known as the Voters First Act. It created a new 14-member Citizens Redistricting Commission. We're talking regular Californians, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, 4 independents. They initially worked on state assembly and state senate districts. 2 years later, in 2010, voters doubled down with Prop 20, expanding that power to include congressional districts. Supporters, including reform groups, and former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger said that this would bring transparency and fairness. The commission first drew maps in 2011 following the U.S. Census. For the first time, the public was able to watch the process in real time. Every meeting, every draft map, every vote open to the public. Districts were drawn around communities of interest and not political power. And it showed. Several longtime incumbents lost re-election under the new maps. The system's been in place ever since. The commission redrew the maps again in 2021, and experts say this is now a national model for independent redistricting, inspiring similar commissions in places like Michigan and Colorado. California's rules are simple. Keep districts equal in population, protect voting rights, respect local communities, and don't favor any party or politician. It's a system that's built on one idea, that voters should choose their politicians and not the other way around. Today, we look into the dollars. We're talking the donors and the players behind Proposition 50. A lot of the money is fueling this debate, so let's jump right in. The Yes on 50 campaign has raised tens of millions, outpacing opponents by a very wide margin. According to campaign finance filings, supporting committees gathered more than $167 million by late October. That includes more than $16 million from the House Majority PAC for Prop 50 and $10 million from the Fund for Policy Reform Group, which was founded by billionaire George Soros. Other top contributing groups include the California Teachers Association, the California Nurses Association, the National Education Association, and the Consumer Attorneys of California Issues PAC. Messaging by supporters frames Prop 50 as a counterpunch to red state gerrymandering, especially Texas's moves that could affect control of the House. Meantime, the no side has raised around $80 million. Billionaire Charles Munger Jr. has spent nearly $33 million to stop the redistricting plan through his Protect Voters First committee. But new reporting from Politico reveals that Munger has cut back from $4 million a week to less than 300. Munger was instrumental in passing former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger's 2008 Voters First Act, which created the Independent Redistricting Commission. A Republican super PAC called the Congressional Leadership Fund, whose donors include Elon Musk, contributed $5 million. Other notable contributors include the election campaign for former House Speaker and California Representative Kevin McCarthy, the campaign for his successor, Vince Fong, and the campaign for Congressman Ken Calvert, whose district is one of those being targeted and would be heavily impacted if Prop 50 passes. A former chair for the state's Republican Party told Politico that there is still a pathway to victory despite being outspent 2-1. Meanwhile, Governor Newsom posted to X on Tuesday telling supporters to stop donating, sharing that the campaign reached its goal and raised more than $38 million from more than 1 million donors across the country. The Trump administration had promised to sue California over this redistricting measure. That has yet to materialize. The Department of Justice says it's sending election monitors to 5 counties, including Fresno County, a move that Governor Newsom calls an act of voter intimidation. And with just days to go before Election Day, a new poll shows that Prop 50 is holding a narrow lead among likely voters. According to the Public Policy Institute of California, 56% of likely voters say they plan to vote yes on the redistricting measure, while 43% are saying no. Now, the poll highlights deep partisan divides. 84% of Democrats are backing the measure, and nearly 9 in 10 Republicans are opposing it. Among independents, support stands at 55%. Under the current map, Democrats hold 43 of the state's 52 U.S. House seats, despite Republicans arguing the advantage is deeper than voter turnout alone. As a voter, this means your representative may change, impacting just how your voice is heard. As supporters say, the map is more compact than the previous one, with fewer city and county splits, and the majority of districts changed by less than 10%. 5 specific Republican-held seats are being targeted. Let's look at how those districts look right now. Currently, District 1 is represented by Doug LaMalfa, that is on the northern end of the state. District 3, held by Representative Kevin Kiley, that one on the eastern end of California. District 22, which is currently held by Representative David Valadao, that includes portions of Tulare, Kings, and Kern counties. District 41, which is currently held by Ken Calvert, that one just east of Long Beach. And District 48, currently held by Representative Darrell Issa in San Diego County. As a reminder, representatives are elected for 2-year terms. Now let's dig deeper into the proposed congressional map and how this will affect us here in the central San Joaquin Valley. Starting in the North Valley, no major changes for Merced and Mariposa counties. Merced stays in the 13th Congressional District, which is currently held by Representative Adam Gray. Mariposa County remains in the 5th Congressional District, held by Republican Representative Tom McClintock. Now take a look at the new map, though. You can see that district lines do shift to the north along Highway 99. This is Chowchilla right there. The city of Chowchilla would move to District 5, along with areas in Madera east of the highway. A large portion of western Fresno County would be changing, though, from the 13th Congressional District to the 22nd Congressional District. There would be big changes to the city of Clovis. That is one we've been talking about for quite a while now. This is the current map, and it shows the entirety of Clovis being represented by the 20th Congressional District by Congressman Vince Fong. But if voters do approve the new maps, Clovis would be split into 3 districts, the 5th district, the 21st district, along with the 20th district. That would add Representatives Jim Costa and Tom McClintock. A lot of the leaders in Clovis saying that their political power would certainly be changed and they would have to lobby to a whole lot more people, making the job more difficult. Big changes would also be coming to West Fresno County. As it stands now, a large portion of that is in the 13th Congressional District represented by Adam Gray. But let's take a look at the new map. A large portion of that area would be shifted to the 22nd District, adding a lot more Democratic voters into one of those seats being targeted, the one held by Republican Representative David Valadao. It is worth noting that that congressional district has been very contentious in the last couple of elections. It's gone down to the wire to find out exactly who wins. Democrats, by the way, do outnumber Republicans when it comes to voter registration. However, Republican Representative David Valadao has pulled off victories in the last couple of elections on that one. Staying on the Valley's west side, communities like Coalinga and Avenal would be shifted to the 18th Congressional District. This is notable because that district goes all the way into the Bay Area, including downtown San Jose. Some farmers on the Valley's west side are saying our political leanings are not those of the Bay Area, let alone would that member of Congress be able to lobby for our needs. That district, by the way, currently represented by Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren. Now let's take a look at the South Valley's current map. Rural areas outside of bigger cities like Hanford and Tulare and Porterville will be shifted to the 20th district, meaning under this newly proposed map, they would be represented by David Valadao as well. And here's a reminder when you're filling out your ballot. A yes vote means that you do temporarily approve the new maps drawn by lawmakers until the next census cycle. A no vote means the current commission-drawn maps remain in place until the next regular cycle after 2030.
Analysts estimate the new maps under Prop 50 could shift up to 5 seats toward Democrats, essentially erasing that Texas effort and keeping things equal between the two states 5-5. Former President Barack Obama has publicly backed the measure, framing it as essential for democracy. Supporters are also highlighting polling data. Recent polling from last week found that 62% of likely voters will support this measure. Now let's get the opponent's side. Critics say Prop 50 undermines the very reforms that California enacted to fight the gerrymandering. They also raise cost and timing concerns. The special election and redrawing effort could cost hundreds of millions of dollars at a time when California is already facing a budget deficit. Here in the Central Valley, where many voters say they don't follow redistricting closely, some residents feel the measure is a power grab that threatens rural representation. Now, according to the Secretary of State, the special election results in one-time cost to counties of a few $1 million statewide and a one-time cost to the state of about $200,000.